A pleasant good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable ministers, distinguished guests. I wish to thank you for affording me this opportunity to speak to you and colleague ministers of the council and others for a few minutes to indicate and highlight the Bahamas position on the question of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing and organized crime in the fisheries sector. I wish to take this opportunity to emphatically state the government of the Bahamas opposed to IUU fishing and organized crime. As you may be aware, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has a shallow water area of some 100,000 square nautical miles and consists of approximately 3,000 small islands and keys. The islands and keys are spread over a large area and are located on 16 plateaus separated from each other and from Florida, Cuba, and Hispaniola by depths of 200 to 2,000 fathoms. The Bahamian fishing industry is confined to these shallow plateaus and is notable for its diversity of species and clarity of water rather than for high productivity, although standing stock and potential yield estimates compare favorably with estimates for comparable fishing grounds to the Caribbean. Fishing has always been an integral part of the Bahamian way of life, either from both an economical or cultural perspective. The commercial fishing industry contributes just around 1% to the gross domestic product and employs thousands of fishers throughout the Bahamas who took to the industry as their main means of livelihood. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations reports that fisheries production in the whole Caribbean region has declined by 40% over the last 2 decades, and that 55% of commercially harvested fishery stocks are overexploited or depleted, and 40% of stocks are fully exploited. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing compounds this problem. IUU fishing undermines efforts to conserve and manage fish stocks in all capture fisheries. When confronted with IUU fishing, national and regional fisheries management organizations can fail to achieve management goals. This situation leads to the loss of both short and long-term social and economical opportunities, and to negative impacts on food security and environmental protection. IUU fishing can lead to the collapse of a fishery or seriously impair efforts to rebuild stocks that have already been depleted. Existing international instruments addressing IUU fishing have not been effective due to a lack of political will, priority, capacity, and resources to ratify or accede to and implement them. I am advised in CARICOM countries, IUU fishing is estimated between 17% and 20% of annual catch, and the vast majority of the governments in the region consider IUU fishing to be a threat to the sustained management of fisheries resources. In the Bahamas today, IUU fishing, including foreign and domestic poaching, are widespread and pose a myriad of threats to the ocean, the fishing industry, and communities throughout the country. In the southeastern Bahamas, we are faced with the issue of poachers, mainly from the Dominican Republic, fishing on a commercial basis, and in the northwestern Bahamas, the issue of foreign sport fishers going over their bag limits. In 2014, the government of the Bahamas invested in excess of some $232 million on the acquisition and purchase of 8 Royal Bahamas Defense Force vessels to redouble its efforts to protect our borders and exclusive economic zones. 4 of the vessels, which are designed for blue water and deep water patrol, that have a range of more than 2,000 nautical miles and a top speed of more than 20 knots. The remaining 4 vessels are specifically designed for operation in the coastal waters and shallow banks. As a part of the new RBDF fleet, there have been improvements to marine access to Matthew Town in Greater Inagua and Gun Point in Ragged Island Point, 2 of the most southeasterly points in the southeastern Bahamas and near to the fishing grounds. Marine access in Bimini and Grand Bahama in the northwestern Bahamas has also been completed to ensure that the northern borders of the Bahamas are as protected as its southern borders. To further shore up our enforcement presence to assist in combating IUU, over the course of the last 4 years in the Department of Marine Resources, we have acquired and purchased 5 inshore marine patrol crafts at the cost of just over $800,000. In 2016, the Bahamas became a party to FAO's Port State Measures Agreement. As we are all aware, the main function of the agreement is to prevent IUU fishing through the adoption and implementation of effective port state measures as a means of ensuring the long-term conservation and sustainable use of living marine resources. The agreement entered into force on June 5th, 2016, and is an important tool to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. At the request of my ministry in 2018, FAO, together with the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration of the United States of America, provided technical assistance to conduct a needs assessment of the Bahamas' capacity to implement the PSMA, complementary international instruments and regional mechanisms to combating IUU fishing, and to accordingly formulate a national strategy and roadmap to gradually fulfill these respective requirements. The work is currently ongoing. Under a new initiative entitled the Marine Action Partnership, or MAP, for Sustainable Fisheries, is a multi-year partnership that coordinates and enhances the efforts of conservation organizations and government agencies to improve marine resource management through effective collaboration and fishing communities and other stakeholders. The MAP, as it is called, aims to expand the capacity of government agencies and marine protected area managers to enforce fisheries laws and regulations, and the capacity of fishers and the broader industry to adhere to them, with the goal of markedly increasing overall compliance by 2025. The main outcomes of the MAP are: 1, to sustain livelihoods for Bahamian fishers and their families; 2, reduce foreign and domestic poaching; 3, increase consumer awareness of fisheries laws, regulations, and compliance; 4, establish collaboration pathways between law enforcement agencies and fisheries stakeholders; and 5, conserve biodiversity of species. In addition to the MAP, my Department of Marine Resources is presently engaged in a vessel monitoring pilot project. The goal of the VMS project is to develop a white paper that will inform the Bahamian government of potential vessel monitoring systems that can be used by Bahamian vessels in order to combat and help against illegal fishing, improve enforcement and monitoring of at-sea activities, and enhance search and rescue measures. The benefits of the VMS are: 1, combat illegal fishing, which is able to track licensed fishing vessels, identify those vessels not registered, and enhance compliance; 2, improve better monitoring and management of at-sea activities. Information will help to assess vessel movements, general identification of where fishing activities are taking place, to help identify key areas that require increased monitoring and management; and 3, enhance search and rescue measures, improve emergency response time and accuracy in identifying where distressed vessels are located. The pilot project is in 2 stages. The first stage involved testing several VMSs to determine which one would be best suited to use in stage 2, which will be the actual pilot study. A VMS has been selected and it's being installed on 12 small fishing vessels and 12 large fishing vessels throughout the Bahamas. The second stage of the pilot project is to begin in earnest this week. In December 2020, the new Fisheries Act 2020 was passed into law, replacing the old Act of 1977. The new act is futuristic and addresses matters relating to the sustainable use, sustainable development, and management of fisheries resources and the marine environment. The new act will ensure the Bahamas fulfills its obligations to the global and regional community, being a signatory to a number of international conventions. I take this opportunity to also note that currently the Department of Marine Resources, along with other enforcement agencies and stakeholders, are currently engaged in drafting new subsidiary legislation, fisheries resources jurisdiction and conservation regulations, to fill in the many gaps that have been observed in overall fisheries management. It is intended that this new subsidiary legislation will come into force by the beginning of 2022. In closing, I wish to touch briefly on organized crime by way of or on the seas. The Bahamas is not a significant drug-producing country, but remains a transit point for illegal drugs bound for the United States and other international markets, as well as illegal immigration. The Bahamas' close proximity to the coast of Florida, USA, as well as its location on Caribbean transshipment routes, makes it a natural conduit for drug smuggling and illegal migration, mainly by Haitian nationals bound for Florida, USA. The Bahamas' many islands and keys, the vast majority of which are uninhabited, provide near ideal conditions for smuggling. Smugglers readily blend in among numerous pleasure craft traveling throughout the Bahamas archipelago, which covers nearly 100,000 square nautical miles. I am happy to report that little to none of these activities have been associated with the fishing industry in the Bahamas. Further, the United States signed a comprehensive maritime agreement with the Bahamas in 2004 that continues to enable cooperation in counter narcotics and migrant interdiction operations in and around Bahamian territorial waters, including through the use of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force ship riders aboard U.S. Coast Guard vessels. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I wish to thank you once again for affording me this opportunity to speak to this pressing issue on IUU fishing and organized crime. Let me say, I wish to inform of my government's continued support of the work of the Council, and we will continue to build on the relationship already established by my predecessors. I pledge the Bahamas support for the Copenhagen Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime and the Global Fishing Industry and the Blue Justice Initiative, and I look forward to a productive and constructive meeting today. Yeah.